don't do it! Just don't do it! Let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just don't do it! Don't make your dreams come true! Just don't do it! Some people dream of success, while you're gonna wake up and let your dreams be dreams. Nothing is possible! You should get to the point where anyone else should do it, and you're gonna stop there! No, what are you waiting for? Just don't do it! Yes, you can! Let your dreams be dreams. Just don't do it! Don't do it! If you're tired of starting, just give up. Just give up.
I need you to be honest with me.
I am being honest with you, dude.
This is gonna go a lot easier if you're honest.
And I will, yeah, dude.
Yeah. What are you on right now?
Cloud9 lit. Cloud9?
No, what are you on right now? You
One?
gotta be honest.
I'm on one, dude. You know what I'm saying?
Stop fucking around. What are you on right now, man?
TikTok, what? Instagram, all of it. I'm on all of it.
I'm not talking about your ass. Drugs.
Oh, sure, if you got some. Yeah, I'm down. You got a party? You know, dude.
Step out of the car.
This is the most important election in the history of our country.
This election is the most important in the modern history of this country.
The election in 2020, without hyperbole, is going to be the most important election this country has undergone in over 100 years. Not a joke.
This November's elections are more important than any I can remember in my lifetime, and that includes when I was on the ballot.
There are just 8 days left in what is the most important election of our lifetimes.
This will be maybe the most important election that our country's ever had.
There's never been a more important tomorrow in modern electoral history in the United States than tomorrow, and that's not hyperbole.
We know what is on the line and what is the truly most important election of our lifetime. Has anybody ever said that to you before?
This election is the most important election in our lifetimes,
no matter what generation you come from.
I truly believe this is the most important election of our lifetimes.
This is, I think, going to be the most important election that we've ever had.
Really one of the most important elections in American history.
In every campaign, they tell you the same thing. This is the most important election in a generation, the most important election in our lifetime. This one truly is.
2008 is the most important election in our lifetime.
This is certainly the most important election in my lifetime.
This is the most important election you've ever voted in your entire life.
My fellow Americans, this is the most important election of our lifetime.
All these choices make this one of the most important elections in our history.
The election of 2004 is one of the most important, not just in our lives, but in our history.
In 2000, as we go into what I think is the most important election we've had in a generation.
In what will be, I am convinced, one of the most important elections we're likely to see for the next 50 years.
It's the most important election of my lifetime.
I think one thing you and I agree on is the last election was perhaps as insignificant and uninteresting as any presidential election in our lifetimes.
Yes.
1996, in my opinion, is going to be the most important election of our lifetimes.
There's a tendency every time it rolls around to say, well, this election, this is the watershed, this is the big one. And whether or not that's always true, I believe that the last election of the 20th century clearly belongs in that category.
This is one of the most important elections in our lifetime. It may be the most important election in our lifetime.
The next election may be the most important one in 100 years.
In what is almost certain to be one of the most consequential elections, not only of our lifetimes, but of the post-World War II American period.
This is one of the most important elections in the history of the United States of America.
This is the single most important election in our lifetimes.
This is the most important election in history.
What this election is about and why this is the most important election of our lifetime.
Before one of the most important elections in the nearly 200 years history of our country.
This is the most important election in this nation in 50 years.
The most important of all choices will be made by the American people at the polls less than 3 months from tonight.
Asking the American people to make one of the most important decisions in their lifetime, because I think this election is one of the most vital in the history of America.
This time, vote like your whole world depended on it.
I think in many ways this election is more important than any since 1932, or certainly almost any in this century.
Perhaps, as Senator Kennedy has already indicated, the most important election in our history.
Never in the history of the country has it been as necessary for the Democrats to win an election as it is now.
You are faced with a great decision on Tuesday, the most important decision, in my opinion, that's faced the country since the Civil War.
We face one of the great choices of history.
My fellow citizens, I cannot tell a lie. This election is more important than any other in the history of our nation.
Okay, so ready to dive into a topic that I think is, well, it's pretty crucial for anyone, especially if they're about to step into a courtroom, for the first time. It's got to be a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, wanting to feel prepared and confident, it's only natural. And the legal system, it's got its own rhythm, its own language, definitely a learning curve.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd be lost.
Yeah.
Luckily, that's why we do these deep dives, right? And this time we've got a listener who's actually about to navigate that world, a courtroom, firsthand. So no time for hypotheticals. We got to give them the good stuff.
Straight to the point. I like it.
Right. So we're starting with, hold on, I've got it right here. First timers going to court. It's like a cheat sheet.
Oh, those are always helpful. Gets rid of some of the what ifs beforehand.
Totally. And this one breaks down like all the courtroom procedure stuff, makes it way less intimidating, step by step.
Practical. I like that. But you know what people often don't think about? the etiquette side of things.
Oh, right. It's not just about showing up. It's like how you show up.
Exactly. It's respect for the process, for the judge, for everyone in the room. And honestly, it can make a difference. Even if it's subtle, how you carry yourself, it gets noticed.
It's like you're saying, hey, I'm taking this seriously, which you are. Speaking of appearances, those barrister gowns the lawyers wear, have you ever, I don't know, like what's the deal with those? They look so formal.
Oh yeah, steeped in tradition, those are symbol of the court, you know, the formality of it all, the role of the lawyer, like a uniform, really. No bling allowed.
No bling.
Seriously. No pocket squares, no flashy accessories, nothing. Rules are rules, but, you know, there's some flexibility, like they've made adjustments to the gowns for pregnant women, things like that.
Makes sense. Gotta be practical. Okay, so appearances matter, check. What about, okay, this is big evidence. What actually makes it into court?
Yeah.
What do they just like toss out? Our next source is all about that.
This is good stuff because people assume, oh, if it's true, it'll be fine. Not how it works.
Really?
Nope. Relevance, credibility, privilege, prejudice, whole bunch of legal hoops to jump through.
Our source used some pretty wild examples. Like, remember that one with the, was it a Brazilian pepper tree? Landscaping disputes? Who knew?
Yeah, shows how lawyers, they got to be sharp, use the rules strategically. Like in that case, the lawyer, he used this thing, it's called judicial notice.
Judicial what now?
Sounds fancy, right? Basically, instead of proving this whole thing about how in Florida those trees are a nuisance, everyone knows it, he just asked the judge to accept it as common knowledge. Saves a ton of time.
So like, instead of calling in a tree expert or whatever.
Exactly. Like proving the sun rises in the east, obvious stuff.
Clever.
Yeah, it is clever. The deal is that the court can't move itself. You know what I'm saying? So it has to be moved by the litigants.
See, this is why knowing even the basics about evidence, it helps.
Yeah.
No matter who you are.
100%. Following arguments, seeing if they hold water. Even if you're building your own case, it can spark some ideas. Ever heard of hearsay evidence?
Can't say that I have.
So basically, if someone's telling you what someone else supposedly saw or heard, but they weren't there themselves, that's hearsay, like gossip, basically. And a lot of times it's not admissible, not trustworthy enough.
Ah, okay. So it's not enough to be like, well, my friend's cousin's hairdresser said.
Exactly. Not exactly courtroom worthy most of the time.
But most of the time, there are some instances in which hearsay statements will pass, like exasperated statements, such as you and I are standing on the corner and we hear gunshots and you turn around to witness, but I do not, who is driving away, and you say, holy shit, there goes Johnny, he just shot Steve. I may not see the act, but I can use this hearsay statement as it was exasperated. Also included are deathbed confessions and a few other things, but you would have to check your local rules and stuff. So
good example, though.
Right. Okay, so we've covered looking the part, we've covered evidence, but this next one, this is, well, it's a little different. It's about manipulation.
Yeah, and the source gets a little, I don't know, unsettling maybe.
Yeah.
How our idea of truth and how we're being manipulated, it's all changing so fast.
Especially with technology and all that, right? Like how much data companies are gathering on us. Kind of creepy if you think about it too much.
It's like a digital fingerprint everywhere you go.
Yeah.
But it goes beyond just collecting data, right? They're using it to, well...
To what? Like manipulate us, is that what you're saying?
Think about it. Online behavior, what you click on, what you buy, even how you're feeling when you're online, it's all getting packaged and honestly used to nudge us, for lack of a better word, towards certain choices. This whole thing, surveillance capitalism, that's what this is.
So they're engineering our decisions.
Yeah.
That's like that whole Facebook experiment, remember? They were messing with people's news feeds, seeing if it would change their mood. Kind of scary.
Yeah.
Especially in like a legal context. Could you imagine?
Oh, it's definitely relevant. Think about it. Lawyers, they're masters of persuasion. Their whole job is to present information in a way that helps their client.
Right.
So knowing these tactics, the manipulation stuff, it's like a secret weapon. Helps you analyze evidence, arguments, everything. You can spot the BS a mile away.
So even if I'm not the one presenting the data, knowing this stuff helps me. Like think critically about it, uncover hidden agendas, all that.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, right? But this time, it's more like knowing about manipulation tactics gives you back your power. You're not just along for the ride.
Okay, I like that. Now I'm even more interested to see where this deep dive takes us.
You know, it's funny. We think of the law like it's supposed to be all logical, cut and dry. But then you get these situations
where it's anything but.
Exactly. Head scratchers, real brain teasers, legal paradoxes. That's what this next source is about.
Right. It's like the system's supposed to be precise, but then it ends up weird,
Yeah.
counterintuitive.
Exactly. And this one, the conjunction paradox, it's a classic. Probability versus like our gut sense of justice. It gets messy.
Yeah, the example they used, the gay crashers at the rodeo, that was a good one. So picture this. 1,000 people in a rodeo.
1,000.
Yeah, 1,000. And only one person snuck in without paying.
Okay, so statistically speaking.
Not great odds if you're the rodeo owner trying to catch them.
Exactly. So let's say this owner, they decide to sue. But instead of finding the actual gate crasher, they just pick some random person from the crowd.
Hold on, what?
I know, right? But their argument is, hey, based on the numbers, there's like a 99.9% chance that this is the person who snuck in.
Okay, but that doesn't sound fair at all.
Right. And that's the whole paradox. The numbers might seem compelling, but it doesn't sit right. Should someone be on the hook for something just because statistically it's slightly more likely? What about actually proving they did it?
It's like saying you were probably the one who ate the last cookie, so you're grounded.
Exactly. It's just off. And that's the point the source is making. Logic only gets you so far in a system that's supposed to be about, well, justice.
It makes you appreciate good lawyers, you know? Because it's not enough to just throw numbers around.
100%. You need that narrative, that human element.
That child molesting, human trafficking, money laundering, demon worshiping element.
Connect the dots for people, make them feel the argument, not just get lost in the math. Speaking of navigating the legal system, ever heard of coram nobis?
Coram. Is that Latin or something?
It is. And no, it's not some ancient legal spell, though it kind of sounds like it. Basically, it's this writ, a way to potentially overturn a conviction, but not like a regular appeal.
So not like a second chance or saying the jury messed up.
Nope. Coram nobis. It's for when something was fundamentally wrong with the case from the get-go. Something nobody knew at the time, so you couldn't have appealed it the usual way.
Okay, so give me an example. What kind of fundamentally wrong are we talking?
Imagine a key witness. Later on, they admit they lied under oath. Or brand new evidence pops up, totally changes how the case looks. Even misconduct, like a prosecutor hiding evidence, stuff like that.
Wow. So serious stuff, last resort kind of thing.
Pretty much. When justice demands action, but the regular channels, they're not an option. It's about righting a wrong, you know? Shows that the system, yeah, it's got flaws, but there are ways to address them when things go really wrong.
Good to know those safeguards are there. Okay, switching gears a bit. Let's talk about people in power, public officials specifically, because this next source, it's all about when they can be held liable personally for what they do in court.
This is huge, and it always gets people talking. The source digs into vicarious liability, which, to put it simply...
Simply, please.
Right. It's like, if you work for a company and you mess up on the job, sometimes your employer can be held responsible too.
So in this case, we're talking about the government being liable for what public officials do, right? But where does the personally liable part come in?
That's the million-dollar question. Usually it is the government that's the main target, but there are times when officials, even though they're representing the government, they can be held accountable as individuals.
I bet that gets complicated fast.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of factors at play, but there are real-world examples. Like this source talks about a case, District 6 redevelopment in South Africa. A government minister, he was held personally liable for costs, delays, the whole 9 yards. His inaction, it really hurt the community.
Wow. So it's not just theoretical. They actually went after him personally.
They did. And it set a precedent, showed that no matter how high up you are, you're not above the law. Accountability matters, especially for those in power.
Powerful message. Now, this next source, this one really resonated with me. This one really resonated with me because it talks about that feeling of being totally overwhelmed by, bureaucracy.
Oh, I know that feeling. Paperwork, procedures, the whole 9 yards, especially when you're dealing with legal stuff.
Yeah.
Easy to get lost.
Exactly. And this source, it basically says even the tiniest details, the stuff you wouldn't even think about, it can make or break you in court.
It's true. The devil's in the details, as they say. But it's not about being sneaky. It's more like these little things, they matter because the whole system is built on them. Order, clarity,
So, if I'm picturing this right, are you saying something as simple as, writing the wrong name on an envelope? That could actually mess up a whole case?
Oh, absolutely. It happens. Lawsuits dismissed, delayed, all because of a tiny error in how a document was addressed. Sounds crazy, right?
A little bit.
But there's a reason for it. Think about it. In the legal world, everything's got to be clear, unambiguous, prevents misunderstandings, keeps things moving.
Right, right. So it's not just about sweating the small stuff. It's about understanding WHY. Those small things matter in the grand scheme of, well, the law.
Exactly. And that's another point this source makes really well. Get yourself an expert. Seriously, trying to navigate this stuff alone, it's like wandering through a maze in the dark.
And a lawyer, they're like, what, the tour guide who knows all the shortcuts, the pitfalls to avoid?
Precisely. Saves you time, stress, probably money in the long run too. Speaking of navigating, I think it's time we helped our listener out, give them the cheat codes for their own courtroom experience.
Recap time. Love it. It's like we've equipped them with a legal survival kit.
Exactly. We covered a lot of ground. We started with those first impressions, remember? Courtroom etiquette.
Oh, right. How to carry yourself, what to wear, sending that respect, subtle stuff, but it matters.
Definitely. Then we jumped into evidence. What's admissible, what's not. All those rules.
That Brazilian pepper tree case, that was a good one. Showed how lawyers, they got to think strategically.
Thinking on their feet, for sure.
Yeah.
And remember hearsay. That whole my friend's cousin said thing.
Not admissible.
Most of the time, nope. Gotta have those credible sources. Then things got really interesting when we talked about
Well, that's kick-ass. Cheers. Yeah, this is something else, man, for sure. It's all computer generated, so we shall see. We shall see. So
about manipulation, how in the digital age, it's everywhere.
Yeah, and how companies are using our data, all that. A little creepy, honestly.
It is, but knowing the tactics, it's empowering. Helps you spot it, not just in court, but in life.
Be a critical thinker.
Right.
Question everything.
Exactly. And who could forget those legal paradoxes? The gate crashers at the rodeo that really highlighted how logic and justice, they don't always see eye to eye.
It's like, yeah, the numbers might make sense on paper, but something can still feel off. Human element's important.
Always. And finally, we talked about accountability, holding those in power responsible for what they do.
Even if they're representing the government.
Even then.
Yeah.
No one's above the law. That District 6 case, that was a powerful reminder of that.
It was. So, okay, big picture time. Our listener, about to face the legal system head on, what's the one thing we want them to remember from all of this?
It might sound cliche, but knowledge is power. The more you understand about how this all works, the less intimidating it becomes. You can advocate for yourself, make good decisions, feel confident.
And don't be afraid to ask for help. If it gets overwhelming, find an expert, a guide.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, learned some fascinating things about the legal system, and hopefully given our listener plenty to think about as they head into that courtroom. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and remember, the law, it might seem complicated, but it's something we could all understand a little better. Thanks for joining us.
Oh yeah. So hey man, I am trying to get you back on for some follow-up, man. What are the odds we could do that this evening? What are the odds? Here we go on that. Oh, this is back when I used to make good ass videos. Good ass videos.
Statement or some content addressing where we are in that process, something brief. Dr. Ziegler, would you be interested in providing that to the community back to school? Everything that Mr. Mahdi mentioned is part of the rollout. We have a pretty robust indoctrination plan ready to go. Enculturation plan ready to go. Move into the school. Thank you, Dr. Ziegler. I was if they could specify. What did he call me? Sorry? What did he call me? Lieutenant? Yes. Well, now, this is why I wanted to have lunch. Is this friendly? Staff? Hello, Bethany speaking. Hello. You phoning for Bethany? Yes. What are you doing? Bethany, can you hear me? Well, you're right in front of me. Bethany, can you hear me down the phone? This is me. On the phone, I had it implanted. My hand is the phone. My hand can walk and talk because I'm on the phone. The phone inside my hand.
The phone inside that bitch's head, hand, head. It's one of those two. I fucking swear. All right, so this has been entertaining for sure. Here we go. Fuck yeah, feedback loop. Fuck yeah, feedback loop. That's what's up.
Of all the animals that you would eat, the humans and pigs come closest.
Man, I could see it.
But to taste like bacon, you have to cure it and do the things, whatever.
Would you have?
If I'm on a mountain and help is not coming and people died in the plane wreck, otherwise we will starve to death, I'm eating me some dead humans.
What are you eating first? What part you think?
Muscle tissue. I would say, the bicep maybe, or I would take my cue from just what you get in the store. Ribs are some good eating.
I love ribs. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I wouldn't hesitate. It's not about morals. It's about survival. By the way, if there's a pig over there, I'm eating the pig. I'm not eating the dead human.
Yeah, that'd be weird if you're like, it crashes at a 7-Eleven and he's still over there cutting up an old lady. We got some creeps out there, man.
Things to think of anytime you're doing anything. As a matter of fact, if you're writing a letter to your kid, the most important words are the tiniest words. They're the words in cat. About things about position, right? What things happen, okay? And all those little words are very, very important. For example, if I'm standing on your foot, I'm trespassing. If I'm standing in your foot, I've committed a miracle. You have control over my hearing. The words are very small words, very, very important words. And so stop using the word in. You're not in there for
guy who was on this ship, his name was Mister. He was the richest man in America at the time. He owned 40 mortgages in America and in this country. This guy's I'm not saying good guy. Actually, this guy was bothering the Federal Reserve. The Rothschilds wanted to create some collusions. Like saying the richest man in America died on all the politicians he bribed, all the no more opposition to it. And the craziest thing about this story is that it went completely unnoticed. No one ever realized it. Well, when I say no one, you understand.
And when my heart's dearest died, went from my life and as an ex-president, he served his country always in wrongs.
This group was extremely corny, and the dude like skip some of that shit and part where Derek comes in and fucks some shit up. Obviously, I'm not gonna make it through this whole thing. Links in the chat if anybody comes in and they want to fucking get bombed on for a minute. I got a minute. I'll always have a minute. I ain't gonna lie. So, anyways, if not, man, I'm gonna send this motherfucker on autopilot until it shuts me down. And cheers.
Oh, man. Barkley. Luck, man, I can't get a fucking signal in my room. Can't get a signal in here. Between the dogs and this phone, it's pretty much the Roseanne channel. All right, don't sweat it. All right, so fucking shitty ass connection and quality fucking live stream. The live stream. Tonight I've had the distinct fucking misery of being your host, Bleak Narratives, Michael Talbert. Tomorrow I'll be history, fucking hopefully, thank God. Go your good way, brothers and sisters.